Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled we're diving into this today. We are unpacking something that, honestly, might seem kind of small at first glance, but is literally the essential glue of the English language. I'm talking about prepositions. Now, if you've ever felt completely tripped up by these tiny, confusing little words, you are in the exact right place. We're going to break them down, look at exactly how they work under the hood, and help you master them once and for all. Okay, let's dive into this. Take a look at the two sentences here. I'm waiting the bus versus I'm waiting for the bus. This is just such a highly relatable, incredibly common mistake that was highlighted over on the English with Alex blog. Think about it. Just one tiny three-letter word completely changes the structural integrity of the whole sentence. Without it, the sentence just kind of falls flat. But with it, the relationship between you and that bus is perfectly clear. And you know, that really is the magic of prepositions.
So, let's start with section 1. The power of prepositions.
I absolutely love this definition from Grammar Songs by Melissa. She says a preposition is simply a locator of time or place. Think about the word itself for a second. The prefix pre literally means before. So a preposition is literally just a word that's positioned before a person or an object to locate them in time or space. It tells your listener exactly where or when the action is happening.
Now, these locators generally fall into a few key buckets. We've got prepositions of time, like at or during, place, like under or inside, direction, like toward or into, and manner, like by or with. Words like at, on, and toward might seem basic, but they provide the crucial context that listeners and readers rely on to picture exactly what you're saying. They completely set the scene.
Moving right along to section 2, building prepositional phrases. We're going from single words to actual construction.
All right, here is your ultimate go-to formula for building a prepositional phrase. It's actually super simple. It's a preposition plus its object, which is going to be a noun or a pronoun, plus any modifiers you want to throw in. The golden rule here is that the preposition must have an object. Without that noun or pronoun, the preposition has nothing to connect to. It becomes a bridge to nowhere. Let's look at how this physically transforms a basic sentence. Grammar Songs gives us this really fantastic example. Superman caught the robber. Okay, it's a complete sentence. We've got a subject, we've got a predicate. But look what happens when we apply our formula. Superman caught the robber behind the old building. Bam! Suddenly we have this vivid spatial detail. Behind is our preposition. Building is our object, and the old are our modifiers. We can picture the scene perfectly now, right?
And this brilliantly illustrates how physical this connection can actually be. Picture water running down the walls, like you see here. The preposition down physically connects the running water to the object, which is the walls. It gives us a crystal clear visual of direction. Let's pivot slightly for section 3, prepositions versus adverbs. It's time to spot the great imposters.
Now, what's really interesting here is the core rule that solves this mystery every single time. Look at the first sentence. She put her hand inside my bag. Because the word inside is immediately followed by a noun, my bag, it's acting as a preposition linking the hand to the bag. Simple enough. But in the second sentence, they decided to stay inside. The word inside stands completely alone. There's no object coming after it. Therefore, in this case, it's an adverb modifying the verb stay. Let's reinforce that rule with a second example, just to make sure it sticks. Water running down the walls. Down is followed by the walls, so, yep, it's a preposition. Contrast that with, he tripped and fell down. Down has no object here. It's just telling us how he fell. It's an adverb. The object is literally what anchors a preposition to the sentence. No object, not a preposition. Which brings us right into section 4, common preposition mistakes. Consider this your troubleshooting guide. Look, if you frequently make mistakes with these words, please do not feel discouraged. As Alex points out in his language blog, the grammar structures in your first language rarely translate one-to-one into English. In your native language, you might use a single word where English demands a specific preposition, or vice versa. This is exactly why these mix-ups happen to learners all over the globe every single day. Let's tackle a really heavily repeated one. I arrived to the airport versus I arrived at the airport. Here's the deal. While you go to a place when you're currently traveling, once you actually get there, you always arrive at a specific place. To implies the movement, at implies you are already firmly located there. But wait, it's English, so naturally there's always a twist. Here's an absolutely crucial exception regarding travel.
You arrive at a specific physical building or location, like an airport or a train station. But when you're talking about arriving in a city, a country, or a large region, you arrive in France or in Chicago. So remember, at for the building itself, in for the borders.
Next up, see you in Monday versus see you on Monday. When we are dealing with time, specifically individual days and specific dates on a calendar, the correct locator tool to use is always on. On Monday, on May 6th, on your birthday.
But hey, be careful not to overcorrect. Look at this one. See you on this weekend. This is a classic example of overusing prepositions. The word this already specifies exactly which weekend you are talking about. Adding on just makes it redundant and completely unnecessary. The correct, natural-sounding phrase is simply, see you this weekend.
Here's another very common slip-up. I went to home. Remember our rule about adverbs from a few minutes ago? Well, in this specific context, the word home functions as an adverb of place, just like the words downtown or outside. So throwing the preposition to in there sounds incredibly unnatural. You just say, I went home. The only time you'd use to is if you say to my home, treating it as a noun, but honestly, that sounds pretty formal for everyday conversation.
So, the crucial point is, when you use certain verbs, you really have to satisfy their specific rules. Can you explain me is incorrect. The verb explain requires a direct object, the actual thing being explained, and if you want to include the person receiving that explanation, you absolutely must use the preposition to right before them. So it becomes, can you explain it to me?
Finally, Section 5, Why Prepositions Matter.
Look at this stark contrast from the worksheet. The cat is on the roof versus the cat is the roof on. Misplacing a preposition or dropping one entirely where it's needed completely destroys the clarity and precision of your sentence. Your listener is suddenly trying to solve a weird puzzle instead of just listening to your message. When you truly master prepositional phrases, you transform basic, ambiguous sentences into vivid, crystal-clear descriptions. You go from simply walking to walking through the bustling market. It paints a picture, but most importantly, it gives you total confidence in your fluency, whether you're speaking in a high-stakes professional setting or just hanging out chatting with friends.
I want to leave you with these encouraging words from English with Alex. It takes time to learn how to use prepositions well consistently, but it is 100% possible. Seriously, don't get frustrated. Consistent practice, actively noticing these structures when you're reading, and paying attention when you speak is the only way to turn these tricky grammatical tools into second nature.
So I leave you with this final thought. Next time you speak or write an email, ask yourself, are you building strong, clear bridges with your prepositions, or are you leaving your objects totally stranded? Keep paying attention to the details, keep practicing, and you'll be building perfect phrases in no time. Thank you so much for exploring this with me on The Explainer. Catch you next time.